The fluorescent lights buzzed above me as I sat at my desk, the hum of the open office drowning out my thoughts. A sea of gray cubicles surrounded me, the air thick with the scent of burnt coffee and stale paper. I had just received the news that would turn my world upside down. My hours were cut, and I felt the ground shift beneath me. The words echoed in my mind, unexpected disappointment. My fingers trembled slightly as I typed an email, the cursor blinking mockingly on the screen. What was I supposed to do now? At home, the atmosphere was no better. The dinner table was set, but the tension crackled like static in the air. My mother, Margaret, presided over the meal with her usual stern demeanor, her eyes flickering with something I couldn't quite place. Was it concern or contempt? I dared not ask. The clinking of cutlery against plates punctuated the silence, and I felt eyes boring into me, questioning my every move. I forced a laugh at a joke that fell flat, the awkwardness thick enough to cut with a knife. This was family, but it felt more like a battleground. As I pushed my food around the plate, I couldn't shake the feeling that I was being watched, scrutinized. Each bite tasted like betrayal, and I wondered if they knew what I had discovered, the valuable code hidden within the company's files. The weight of it pressed down on me, a secret that could change everything. I glanced up, catching my mother's gaze. A flicker of something darker crossed her face and my heart raced. Did she suspect? That night I lay in bed, the shadows of the room enveloping me. My mind spiraled through the events of the day, replaying each moment. The betrayal I felt was palpable, a knot tightening in my stomach. I had to understand my new reality, and the conflict between my desire for revenge and the morality of my actions began to take shape. I could feel the walls closing in, suffocating me with doubt and frustration. What was I willing to sacrifice to expose the truth? Tomorrow would bring more questions, more tension at home, and I knew I had to navigate this labyrinth with care. The stakes were high, and I could no longer ignore the path before me. My heart raced as I thought about the code, the power it held. It was time to face the music, to confront my mother and uncover the truth behind our fractured family. Little did I know, this was just the beginning of a long and treacherous journey. The cafe was a small refuge from the chaos of the city, its warm wood paneling and the rich aroma of freshly brewed coffee wrapping around me like a comforting blanket. I sat across from Lily, her bright eyes sparkling with concern as she stirred her latte, the sound of the spoon clinking against the ceramic mug punctuating the tension between us. "You can't keep doing this, Ella. Hiding from your mother won't solve anything," Lily said, her voice steady yet laced with urgency. I could feel the heat rising in my cheeks, a mix of anger and frustration bubbling just beneath the surface. How could she expect me to confront the very source of my pain? My fingers drummed anxiously on the table, the smooth surface betraying my inner turmoil. "You don't understand, Lily. She's the reason I'm in this mess." "I can't just sit back and let her control my life," I replied, my voice sharper than I intended. Memories of my mother's cold, calculating demeanor flooded my mind, the way her laughter felt more like a dagger than a melody. Each moment from our past replayed vividly, reminding me of the betrayal that had etched itself into our relationship. Just then, the bell above the door jingled and I turned to see a couple walk in, their laughter bright and carefree. It felt like a cruel contrast to my own life where every interaction was tinged with suspicion and resentment. I took a deep breath, trying to ground myself as the warmth of the cafe enveloped me. "What if you just talked to her?" "Maybe it's not as black and white as you think," Lily suggested, leaning forward. Her sincerity was both comforting and infuriating. Did she not realize that talking had never worked with my mother? "You think she'll listen? She'll twist my words, use them against me. I can't let that happen again." The tension in my chest tightened, an almost physical manifestation of my conflict. I wanted to scream, to lash out at the very idea of reconciliation. But deep down, a flicker of doubt gnawed at me. What if Lily was right? What if I could confront Margaret and find some semblance of closure? My heart raced at the thought, a mix of fear and determination surging through me. "Ella, please. You need to face her. You can't let her win by avoiding her. You deserve to stand up for yourself," Lily urged, her voice a lifeline in the storm of my emotions. I could see the sincerity in her eyes, the way she believed I could reclaim my narrative. But the fear of rejection loomed large, a shadow that threatened to swallow me whole. As we finished our drinks, I felt a strange resolve building within me. Perhaps it was time to confront the ghost of my past. I stood up, my heart pounding, the decision heavy but necessary. I had to face my mother, no matter the cost. Later that evening, I found myself standing in front of our family home, the familiar facade stirring memories of childhood. The scent of blooming flowers filled the air, yet it felt suffocating as I approached the door. I hesitated, my hand hovering over the doorbell, battling the pull of fear and the need for confrontation. My mother had to know how her actions had shattered my world. This was my chance, and I wouldn't let it slip away. The air in my apartment was charged with a sense of dread, thick and suffocating like the humidity of a summer storm. I stood in the dim light, the shadows dancing on the walls, twisting my sense of reality with their chaotic movements. My phone vibrated violently on the table, and the jarring sound cut through the silence like a knife. I hesitated, my fingers hovering above the screen, the prospect of seeing a message that could either confirm my fears or offer a glimmer of hope weighing heavily on my mind. Finally, I picked it up, and as my eyes scanned the text, a cold shiver raced down my spine. "You think you can escape this? You have no idea what you're up against. Watch your back." The words were a threat, stark and unyielding. I felt my palms grow clammy, the phone slipping slightly from my grasp as a wave of panic washed over me. I had been expecting something, but this felt different, more sinister. My breath quickened and I took a step back, my back hitting the cool wall behind me. I closed my eyes for a moment, trying to steady the rapid beating of my heart. Memories of my mother's cold demeanor flickered through my mind, reminding me of the power she wielded, not just over the business but over our lives. I shook my head, trying to dispel the rising tide of fear. I needed to talk to Jake. He always had a way of calming my racing thoughts, grounding me when everything felt overwhelming. I moved to the living room, the soft, worn fabric of the couch comforting against my skin as I sank into it. My phone buzzed again and I felt a fresh wave of anxiety wash over me. I had to act, to make a plan. I grabbed my laptop, the smooth surface cool against my fingers as I opened it, ready to gather my thoughts and strategy. Minutes later, Jake walked through the door, his face etched with concern. "Ella, you look pale, what's going on?" His voice was soft, yet there was an urgency in his tone that made my chest tighten. I took a deep breath, gathering my thoughts, the weight of my situation pressing down on me like a heavy fog. "I received a message, a threat," I said, my voice trembling slightly as I met his eyes. The worry in his gaze deepened, and I could see the tension tighten his jaw. "They know what I'm planning, Jake. They won't let me just walk away." He stepped closer, his presence both a comfort and a source of anxiety. "You can't just rush into this, you need to think it through. What if they what?" I interrupted, my voice rising with frustration. "What if I do nothing? I can't just sit back and let them dictate my life." I felt the heat rising in my cheeks, a mix of desperation and resolve flooding my veins. He ran a hand through his hair, visibly torn. "I want to support you, but I'm scared for you. We need a plan, something careful." I nodded, my mind racing. "I've been thinking about it. I can't just confront her directly. It'll backfire. I need something more strategic, something they won't see coming." Jake's eyes softened for a moment, the worry still etched on his face. "What do you have in mind?" I took a deep breath, gathering my thoughts as I began to outline my ideas. The tension in the room shifted, the air crackling with a mixture of fear and determination. I could feel the resolve building within me, even as the enormity of what lay ahead loomed like a dark cloud. "I'll need your help to gather information, anything that can give me an edge. We can't let them win, not this time." The shadows danced along the walls of my dimly lit apartment, the glow from a single lamp casting an eerie light on the scattered papers strewn across my coffee table. I could feel the tension in the air, thick and suffocating. As I paced back and forth, my mind raced with the gravity of my decisions. The echoes of my mother's voice haunted me, the manipulative tone, the way she wielded power like a weapon. I pressed my palms against my temples, trying to stave off the rising tide of anxiety threatening to consume me. Lily sat cross-legged on the couch, her eyes wide with concern as she watched me. The dark circles under her eyes mirrored my own, a testament to the sleepless nights we had both endured. "Ella, you have to think this through. Revenge can ruin you. It's not just about what they did to you. It's about who you become in the process," she urged, her voice soft yet firm. Her unwavering support felt like a lifeline, but in that moment I struggled to see beyond my thirst for justice. "But what they did to me was unforgivable, Lily. They stripped me of everything I worked for, and I can't just sit back and let it go." My voice cracked, the intensity of my emotions spilling over like a dam ready to burst. I felt the heat of anger rise within me, a fire that fueled my determination to confront the injustice I had faced. I needed to take a stand, but at what cost? I glanced at the clock, its hands ticking down the seconds like a countdown to an inevitable confrontation. The weight of the decision pressed heavily on my chest. Memories of my mother's betrayal flickered through my mind like a slideshow of pain. I could see her standing over me, a figure cloaked in smiles yet dripping with deception, always ready to sacrifice others for her gain. The thought made my stomach churn. What if you lose yourself in this quest for revenge? What if it changes you into something you can't recognize? Lily's question lingered in the air, a chilling reminder of the fine line between justice and vengeance. I could feel my pulse quicken as I wrestled with her words. Each beat echoed my internal conflict, a battle between the desire for retribution and the fear of the person I might become. As the hours slipped away, we meticulously plotted the steps I would take to confront my mother. I could hear the rustling of paper, the sharp sound of pens scratching against the surface, yet all I could focus on was the growing knot in my stomach. The plan felt both exhilarating and terrifying, a delicate dance along the precipice of morality. Would executing it mean I was no better than her? The tension in the room thickened as we outlined the details, each point a step closer to the confrontation I had both craved and dreaded. My heart raced as I imagined the moment I would face her, the confrontation that would either liberate me or shatter the remnants of my integrity. I could almost hear her laughter ringing in my ears, a haunting melody that promised chaos. Finally, the time came for the showdown. I stood outside her office, the door looming before me like the gates of hell. My breath came in shallow gasps, the air heavy with the scent of polished wood and betrayal. With a final deep breath, I pushed the door open, stepping into the lion's den. My pulse quickened as I faced Margaret, her expression a mix of surprise and amusement, as if she had anticipated my arrival. "Ella, darling, to what do I owe this unexpected visit?" she purred, her voice dripping with condescension. The moment hung in the air, charged with the weight of everything left unsaid. I could feel the heat rising in my cheeks, igniting the fire within me. This was it. This was the reckoning I had been preparing for, the confrontation that would either free me or bind me to the darkness of revenge. I squared my shoulders, ready to unleash the fury that had been building inside me, unsure if I was ready for the consequences of my actions, but knowing I had to face her. "It's time we talked. You need to understand what you've done to me, and it's time for you to face the truth," I declared, my voice steady in the face of the storm. The intensity of the moment crackled in the air, a prelude to the emotional showdown that awaited us. As I stood there, I realized this was no longer just about revenge. It was a battle for my very soul, a test of my resolve to rise above the betrayal and reclaim my power. In that instant, I knew my journey had only just begun. The apartment felt unusually quiet, a stark contrast to the storm of emotions brewing within me. The soft glow of the table lamp illuminated the space around me, casting long shadows that danced across the walls like the doubts swirling in my mind. I stared out the window, the city lights twinkling against the dark backdrop of the night, reminiscent of the fractured relationships I was attempting to mend. A hint of jasmine from the candle flickered beside me, but it did little to soothe the tension coiling in my chest. As I took a deep breath, I could almost hear Jake's voice from earlier that day, filled with concern and warmth. We had sat across from each other at the small kitchen table, the remnants of dinner untouched between us, a silent testament to the weight of our conversation. "Ella, I'm worried about you," he had said, his brow furrowed, his hands fidgeting with the edge of his napkin. I felt the heat of his gaze, a mixture of love and fear that made my heart ache. "I know, Jake. But you have to understand, I'm trying to do what's right," I had replied, my voice trembling as I struggled to keep my emotions in check. I remembered how the words had tasted bitter on my tongue, a desperate plea for him to grasp the depth of my turmoil. Yet deep down, I was aware that my quest for revenge had cast a shadow over our relationship, leaving scars that were not so easily healed. His response had been a heavy silence, the kind that stretched between us like a chasm. "But at what cost, Ella? I fear you're losing yourself in this. I don't want you to become someone you don't recognize." His words echoed in my mind, a haunting reminder of the fine line I was walking between vengeance and self-destruction. I could see the worry etched on his face, the way his fingers clenched as he tried to process my ambition, and I felt a pang of guilt wash over me. Now, sitting alone in the dim light of my apartment, I reflected on our conversation. The flickering candle cast erratic shadows, mirroring my state of mind. Could I truly find a way back to the person I used to be, the person who believed in justice without the need for retribution? I longed to bridge the gap between Jake and me, yet the path seemed murky, fraught with the consequences of my actions. I wished I could rewind time to make different choices, but that was a luxury I no longer had. As I picked up my phone, I hesitated, my thumb hovering over Jake's contact. The thought of reaching out felt daunting, like standing at the edge of a precipice. What would I even say? I wanted to tell him that I missed him, that I was tired of the tension that had replaced our laughter. But the specter of my revenge loomed large, a reminder of the distance I had created between us. I closed my eyes, the weight of my decisions settling heavily on my shoulders. I needed to reconcile not only with Jake but also with myself before I could move forward. Finally, I pressed dial, my heart racing as the phone rang. Each tone felt like a countdown to something inevitable. When his voice finally came through, warm and familiar, I felt a rush of relief mixed with anxiety. "Jake, can we talk?" I asked, my voice barely above a whisper, yet filled with the hope that maybe, just maybe, we could find our way back to each other amidst the chaos I had created. "Of course, Ella." "I've been waiting for you to reach out," he replied, and in that moment I felt a flicker of hope ignite within me. Perhaps healing was possible, but it would take both of us to navigate the tumultuous waters ahead. I resolved then and there to fight for our relationship, to prove that, even amidst betrayal, there was room for forgiveness and understanding. I wasn't ready to give up on us just yet. As the conversation unfolded, I felt the weight of my past actions begin to lift, if only slightly. I knew it wouldn't be easy, but I was willing to put in the work. The journey toward redemption and reconciliation had begun, and for the first time in a long while, I felt a glimmer of optimism for the future, despite the scars that lingered from my quest for revenge. As I sat at my desk, the flickering fluorescent lights above droned incessantly, casting a cold, sterile glow over my surroundings. The walls seemed to close in, suffocating me under the weight of betrayal and unspoken threats. My fingers trembled as I scrolled through my emails, each notification a reminder of the chaos that had unfolded around me. The air was thick with tension, the faint scent of burnt coffee lingering in the background. I could feel my heartbeat quickening, each thud reverberating through my chest like a war drum preparing for battle. Then it arrived, the final threat, stark and menacing, subject line bold and unforgiving. "You have no idea what you're getting into, Ella." My breath caught in my throat, and I felt a shiver run down my spine as I opened the email. The words were venomous, dripping with malice. My mother's influence loomed large, a shadow that threatened to engulf me. I recalled the countless times she had manipulated situations to her advantage, always one step ahead, her voice echoing in my mind. Control is everything. I had spent my life trying to escape her grasp, yet here I was, staring down the barrel of her wrath. A surge of fury ignited within me, burning away the fear that had wrapped around my heart like a vice. I was done being a pawn in her game. I can't let her win, I thought, determination flooding my veins as I clenched my fists, feeling the sharp edges of my resolve sharpen like a blade. Memories of our confrontations flashed through my mind, each battle a reminder of her relentless pursuit of power, the way she had always put the family business above all else, including me. I stood abruptly, the chair scraping against the floor, the sound echoing like a gunshot in the stillness of my office. "This ends with me," I whispered fiercely, the words igniting a fire in my belly. I couldn't allow her to dictate my choices any longer. I could feel the adrenaline coursing through me, a heady mix of anger and resolve. As I paced the room, the shadows seemed to dance around me, taunting me with the weight of my decisions. My mind raced with possibilities, each one more daring than the last. I needed to act, to take control of my narrative. I envisioned a plan, not just for revenge but for reclaiming my power, my identity. With each step, the fear that had once held me captive began to dissipate, replaced by a fierce determination. I was ready to confront the monster that my mother had become, ready to dismantle the empire she had built on manipulation and deceit. The path ahead was fraught with danger, but I was prepared to fight for my freedom. I picked up my phone, my hands steady now, as I began to text Lily about our next steps. My heart raced not with fear but with the promise of what was to come. I was no longer a victim, I was a warrior. The sun dipped low in the sky, casting long shadows across my living room as I sat cross-legged on the floor, surrounded by a chaotic array of notes and diagrams. The scent of burnt coffee lingered in the air, a grim reminder of my earlier failed attempt to fuel my brainstorming session. I felt a mix of excitement and nervousness as I stared at the mess before me, each page filled with ideas that buzzed in my mind like a swarm of bees. This was it, I was ready to plan my revenge. Lily entered the room, her expression a mix of concern and determination. She settled down beside me, her presence a reassuring anchor amid the storm brewing within me. "Are you sure about this, Ella? Revenge can consume you if you let it," she said softly, her eyes searching mine for certainty. I could feel the weight of her words pressing against my resolve, but the fire of betrayal fueled my focus. "I have to do this, Lily. I can't let them think they can walk all over me. This betrayal, it has to be addressed and I need to make a statement," I replied, my voice steady despite the tremor of my hands. The thought of confronting my mother and her machinations ignited a fierce determination within me. As we began to outline the steps, I felt my heart race with anticipation. Our first task was to gather evidence, documents and emails that would expose the extent of Margaret's manipulative tactics. I envisioned each piece as a puzzle that, when assembled, would reveal the dark truth behind her facade. I jotted down notes, the ink trailing across the paper like a roadmap to my liberation. "We need to be smart about this. Timing is everything," Lily emphasized, her brow furrowed in concentration. I nodded, the tension in the room palpable as we strategized. Each idea we tossed around felt like a step closer to reclaiming my narrative. I could picture the moment of confrontation vividly, the satisfaction of revealing the truth to everyone who had doubted me. As we meticulously planned, I felt a mixture of adrenaline and fear. What if we got caught? What if my mother retaliated? But the thought of remaining a victim, of allowing her to continue her reign of manipulation, pushed me forward. I was no longer just the betrayed, I was the avenger, and I was ready to execute my plan. The air in the conference room felt charged, a palpable tension that crackled as I stood face to face with my mother, Margaret. The stark, fluorescent lights overhead cast harsh shadows across her face, illuminating the cool, calculating expression that had become so familiar to me over the years. I could smell the faint scent of her expensive perfume mixed with the lingering aroma of stale coffee, a reminder of the countless hours spent discussing strategy and ambition, but this felt different. Today, it was personal. I clenched my fists at my sides, the smooth surface of the table cool against my palms as I fought to maintain my composure. My heart raced, echoes of our past reverberating in my mind like a haunting melody. Memories of childhood, of her unwavering expectations, of the times I had faltered under her scrutiny, each recollection fueled my resolve. "You think you can control everything, don't you?" I said, my voice steady but laced with an undercurrent of fury. "Even me, but I won't let you dictate my life any longer." Margaret's eyes narrowed, a flicker of surprise quickly masked by disdain. "You think a few mistakes will change the course of this business? You're naive, Ella. You're still my daughter, and I will do what's best for our legacy, whether you like it or not." Her words were like daggers, each puncturing the air between us, igniting a fire within me that I had kept dormant for far too long. Taking a step forward, I felt the weight of my decisions press against my shoulders. "This isn't just about the company anymore, Mother. This is about me reclaiming my power, my choices. I won't let your ambition overshadow my own dreams." My voice rose, a fierce declaration that echoed in the room like thunder. I could see the shock on her face, and for a moment, it felt like I had finally broken through the wall she had built around her heart. The tension thickened as she opened her mouth to retort, but I raised my hand to silence her. I had come too far to let her manipulate the narrative. "You taught me how to fight, Margaret. But this time I'm fighting for myself, not for your vision of control. I'm done being the pawn in your game. This ends with me." I could feel the adrenaline coursing through my veins, empowering me as I stood my ground, ready to face whatever consequences this confrontation would bring. With every word, I stripped away the layers of expectation and betrayal that had shrouded our relationship for years. I saw the flicker of uncertainty in her eyes, a hint that perhaps she recognized the strength in my resolve. It was in that moment, standing defiantly before her, that I understood the true meaning of empowerment. As I turned to leave the room, a sense of liberation washed over me. The confrontation had been a storm, but I had weathered it. With each step away from Margaret, I felt lighter, freer. I was no longer a victim of her ambitions. I was reclaiming my narrative, ready to embrace whatever lay ahead. The path to healing wouldn't be easy, but I was determined to forge it on my terms. The soft glow of the setting sun filtered through the windows of my apartment, casting warm shadows that danced across the walls. Sitting on the edge of my couch, I took a moment to breathe, the weight of recent events pressing heavily on my chest. The room was quiet, save for the distant hum of traffic outside, a stark contrast to the chaos that had enveloped my life over the past few weeks. I reflected on the confrontation with my mother and the emotional toll it had taken on me. The echoes of our heated exchange lingered, a reminder of the deep-seated wounds that had festered between us. I had sought clarity and closure, but the fallout was more complex than I had anticipated. Jake entered the room, his presence a soothing balm amidst my turmoil. He regarded me with a mixture of concern and understanding, as if he could sense the storm raging within me. "How are you holding up?" he asked softly, his voice breaking the silence like a gentle rain. I looked up at him, my heart swelling with gratitude for his unwavering support. "It's been rough, but I'm trying to make sense of it all. I want to move forward, but the scars of betrayal are still fresh," I confessed, my voice barely above a whisper. He nodded, his brow furrowed in thought. "I know it's not easy, but you've taken the first step by confronting your past. You have to believe that healing is possible," he encouraged, his eyes holding a depth of empathy that made me feel seen. I could feel a flicker of hope igniting within me, a small flame amidst the shadows of doubt. As we talked, I shared my desire to rebuild not only my relationship with him, but also to mend the rifts within my team. I envisioned a path forward, one where I could acknowledge my mistakes and embrace the lessons learned. Jake listened intently, offering insights that helped me refine my thoughts. "It's about finding balance, Ella. You can drive for change without losing sight of the people behind the numbers," he said, his words resonating deeply. In that moment, I realized that while the journey ahead would be fraught with challenges, I was no longer alone. I had allies in my corner, Jake, Lily, and even those colleagues willing to give me another chance. With renewed determination, I resolved to take actionable steps toward rebuilding trust and fostering collaboration. The scars of my past would not define me. Instead, they would serve as reminders of the strength I possessed to rise from the ashes of betrayal. The sun dipped below the horizon, casting a golden hue across the room, and for the first time in a long while I felt a sense of peace wash over me. The road to redemption was long, but I was ready to walk it, step by step, hand in hand with those who believed in me. The sun dipped low on the horizon, casting a golden hue over the city as I stood by the window of my apartment, the warm light washing over me like a comforting embrace. I had transformed my space into a sanctuary filled with plants and soft textiles, each item a reminder of the journey I had taken. The air was filled with the earthy scent of fresh soil, a stark contrast to the cold corporate world I had once inhabited. As I prepared to record a video message, I felt a mix of excitement and nervousness fluttering in my stomach, a reflection of my growth and the hope I wanted to share with others. With the camera rolling, I took a deep breath, my fingers brushing against the smooth surface of the table as I began to speak. Life is a series of choices, and each one shapes who we become. I learned that ambition can lead us astray if we forget the human element in our decisions. But it's never too late to change course, to seek redemption, and to inspire those around us to do the same. Together, we can forge a path of integrity and compassion, transforming our mistakes into stepping stones for growth. My voice resonated with conviction, each word a testament to my journey. As I concluded the message, I felt a sense of purpose surging within me. I was ready to embrace this new chapter, not just for myself, but for others who might find themselves lost in the labyrinth of ambition and betrayal. The montage of my new life played in my mind, moments of laughter with friends, heartfelt conversations with my partner, and the support of my best friend. I wanted to remind everyone that they too could rise from the ashes of their choices. With a final smile, I added, subscribe to the channel and activate the bell.